Hi, everyone. Welcome to Acting Sessions. I'm your host, Marco DiGeorge. I'm the co-founder and instructor at Truthful Acting Studios. We are an acting conservatory located in Orlando, Florida. And from time to time, I like to come on and talk about different acting topics. And today, I want to address the topic of audition essentials. Because auditioning is a very important part of the experience of being an actor. So I just want to go through some things that hopefully can help you during that process. So first of all, we have, if you're live with us right now, we do have a chat feature over on the side. Please feel free to interact with us. If you have any questions about what I'm talking about, put it in the chat. I will do my absolute best to get through everything during the time that we have. And we have quite a bit to go over today, since this is a pretty broad subject. But still, please interact with us. Let us know what you're thinking, feeling, and if you have any questions. So the first thing I want to do is I would love to go through just a brief presentation and about what the audition process is and why we do it. So we're going to go ahead and start that. So first of all, we want to talk about what is an audition? Why do we even do these things as actors? And so the first thing is auditioning for an actor is a skill, meaning this is something that you learn how to do and you can eventually become very good at it. This isn't something that you have to be born with, just like the skills of acting. You work on these skills to audition. And essentially, an audition is a small piece of what we do as actors. Secondly, from a directing standpoint or producing standpoint, an audition is an evaluation. So I'm putting together a film or I'm putting together a play, and I need different actors, I need different characters for that. And so what I need to do is I need to bring in actors, and what I'm trying to do is match you as an actor to see if you fit for the part that we need for the film or for the play. Do you match? But it's simply an evaluation for that. And what we're evaluating is how well do you fit in this particular story. That's really all it is. But it's an important part of what we do. An audition is a way of also forming relationships. You can form and strengthen relationships within the industry. So actors have to audition, and we audition by going to castings, and even nowadays, even with remote submission. But it's still a way to form relationships with casting directors, with producers in the area, whether it's in theater or film. Every time, even if you self-submit, every time you send something in, you're building and strengthening that relationship. We get to know each other that way. An audition is also great practice. It's an opportunity for you to practice your craft. Every single time you audition, you get to act. That's pretty incredible. As an actor, we audition more than we do anything else. Majority of the time, we do not get the parts that we audition for. And it's not because we're not a strong actor. It's simply because there is a large pool, there's a large amount of actors that are auditioning for just one part or two parts that are available. And so the percentages are against you in doing that. But we audition frequently. So because we audition so much, eventually you will get a part that fits you. And really, those are what we want. We want the parts that fit us. We don't want to be forced into a part that really wouldn't be right for us. So we audition all the time. So it's a great way if you're in a class or you're practicing your craft in some way, auditioning, you get to act all the time. So you get constant repetition, constant practice of your skill as an actor. Auditioning is normal. It's part of the professional life as an actor. As I said, if you're working professionally, especially in one of the major cities, auditioning is something that you would do weekly, sometimes even daily, depending on where you are in your career as an actor. So we need to learn I truly believe we need to learn as an actor to love the process of auditioning. The more we love it, the more we can find an excitement and a passion in the audition process itself, the more fulfilled we will be as an actor. And finally, it's fun. So just like what I was talking about, when we get over the initial fears of auditioning, when we learn what it's really about, and we realize that auditioning is simply acting. That's it. We get to perform. It's for a short piece, though, but we still get to perform for those moments. And when we love performing, when we learn to love that process, the fact that we get to perform every single audition, then it will become something that's fun for us to do. And I understand in the beginning it's not. I understand in the beginning there's a lot of anxiety that goes along with it. But once we get over those hurdles and you enjoy auditioning, you'll realize that it's an extremely creative process. Okay, so that's basically what an audition is. It's a way to match actors with the parts that we need. So now I want to talk about, just briefly, the types of auditions we have. Because when I say auditioning, it's really very broad in what we mean. And so, first of all, we have mediums. We have film, television, theater, commercial, and there's even agent auditions. Sometimes when an agent is looking to sign you, they might ask you to audition for them and do possibly a short scene or a monologue. So there's different mediums that we have for those auditions. So the first is something called a cold read. A cold read means that when you show up to the audition, you're going to receive the material right then, and you're only going to have a few minutes to prepare it, to look it over before you audition. This is completely by design, and it's meant to see what you do with this material without having a lot of time to prepare for it. It's a great evaluation tool. As a director, I love using the cold read for an audition. It tells me so much about where you are as an actor and what you're able to do with the material. So that's what a cold read is. It simply means you don't receive the material until maybe 10 or 15 minutes prior to your audition. And that's very normal. Second is something called a prepared read, which we typically get at the callback stage. A prepared read means you receive the material ahead of time, maybe a couple days ahead of time, and so you have more time to prepare it. Now, in a prepared read, I would expect you to do more work on it. Right? In a cold read, you only have 10 or 15 minutes, so I want to see what you do with it quickly. But in a prepared read, I would expect you to put as much time in it as you possibly can. It needs to be more cooked, so to speak, as we would say. Next are monologues. So with the cold reads and prepared reads, those are typically short scenes that I would have you do with another actor or with what we call a reader, which is somebody that we would have there to read the scene with you. But with a monologue, this is something that you would do on your own. And so monologues are typically done, or you're asked to do them for stage, for theater. And it's a different type of evaluation process. Because an audition is it's a small piece, it's a sliver of the actual environment. So a cold read allows me to evaluate you in a film set environment with a camera, with you're standing on a specific spot, you're working with somebody that's off camera. It's a film environment. But with a monologue, this helps me in the stage environment, with you standing on stage, usually with some lights on you, and you're delivering this over the audience. And so I get to look at you from a theater standpoint. And I look for things like, do you know how to use your voice? Do you know how to command a moment? Is what you're saying believable and truthful? So monologues are very short. Pretty much the longest monologue right now is about 90 seconds. We prefer shorter. I prefer a monologue to be about a minute to a minute and 20 seconds. Right in there is where I would prefer for you to do a monologue in. So it's short material, and they're not meant to cover a whole arc of a character or even a whole. It's a specific moment from a scene that only your character is talking, which is why it's a monologue. There's just one person talking. It's just you, and we can tell quite a bit from that. Next is self-tape. Now, self-tapes have exploded in the past few years because of the pandemic, and it has changed quite a bit. Now, we've always had self-tapes. I say always. For the past however long. I mean, I remember going back a couple decades, we would submit these things called tapes. But we still have this term called self-tape, which means you record it on your own, and then you submit that in. And I'll talk a little bit more about self-tapes a little later on in the seminar, how to do them, and so forth. And then you have virtual now, which is something coming out of the pandemic. Virtual auditions they're live, maybe like on Zoom or some live video platform. But you do it from home. So you're virtually having this audition, possibly talking with another actor or with the casting director as you go through that. So just to answer the question that's in the chat here, do cold reads expect you to memorize the piece? No, not at all. The cold read, in fact, you're going to hold it in your hand. So like if I have a script, right, I'm going to hold it while I audition. And so I can refer down to the words when I need them. So you don't need to spend the time. You only have 10 or 15 minutes. You don't need to spend that time memorizing. You want to be familiar with the flow of the scene and what's happening in it. We want to make some choices of what's happening in the scene, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But you do not need to memorize it. So that's the good news about that. Okay, so what casting directors are looking for? So I get this question quite a bit. It's like, well, what do they want? What are they looking for? So the first thing is imagination. It's the ability to create your environment and live in the moment. So on a film set or on a stage, many times when we're actually acting in the performance, we're not in a real environment. On a film set, we're on a set. And the thing is that the set exists behind us. It's what the camera's seeing. What's in front of us, what we, the actor, are seeing are the camera, the crew, the lights, all of those type of things are in front of us. It's not the actual set. So we have to learn how to use our imagination to create the full environment that we exist in. Well, in an audition room, we don't have really any part of a set, but it's still the same thing. What we're looking at, we need to create that environment and live truthfully in the moment. So are we in a home? Are we in a school? Are we in an office? Like, where are we? Are we in a restaurant? Where does this scene take place? And we need to be able to create that, just out of our minds, create that so we can live truthfully in those moments. So we look for that. We look for imagination. The next thing we look for is what we call truth. Truth in the performance. We want to make sure it's authentic and coming from a true personal meaning. And what I mean by that is when there's a performance, whether it's on audition or an actual performance on film or on stage, a truthful performance is one that is felt. You can feel it in the audience. It's one that the actor is feeling, meaning that what you're saying, the words of the script that you're saying, actually mean something. And so we look at that. Versus, if you just read off the page, it sounds like you're reading off the page. So as an actor, we have to work on taking these words and then really delivering them, really doing something with them, really saying them to another human being that's across from us. And so it creates this realm of truth that I'm really talking to somebody, and then I'm really listening when they're talking to me. So that's one of the things, and this is where acting training comes involved, where the more you're trained as an actor, the more you work on those skills, the more you can apply those directly to your auditioning. So along with the truth and what I was saying, like really talk and really listen, it creates this thing called working off. Working off is a moment-to-moment experience off of what is actually happening around us. So it's created where, in other words, if I have this, I'm sitting here in an audition, I have this scene, right? It's on this paper in front of me. So I could just, when it's my turn, I can go down, pick up the next line, and simply say it. But it's more powerful if I'm really listening to what's happening over there. And I'm taking in what they're saying. I'm taking it very personally, and then I have a reaction that responds back. And then as I'm saying something to my partner, I'm working off, meaning I'm reacting to how are they being? How are they taking it? Are they really listening to me? So this idea called working off, it's one of our foundational tools in when we're learning acting, deeper level acting. And so I look for that in the audition process as well. Specificity. It's the ability to make important, meaningful, specific choices that bring the scene to life. Now, what I mean by specific choices, when you receive material as just short scene, the choices you're making are not plot related, but they're what I call importance or meaning related. You want to make decisions on the scene based in the relationship. So the relationship typically in the scene is important. Even if it says that you're siblings, or even if it says that you're in a romantic relationship, you can still make a specific choice about what that other person means to you right now. What do they mean to you right now? And then also, what do you need from them right now? Every scene is a fight for something. It's a fight to get someone to understand you, a fight to get someone on your side. It's a fight for something. So what do you need from them, and what do they mean to you right now? Those are the choices that we make, and the more important we make those choices, the stronger the scene is. And then energy. Lots and lots of energy. Everything that we're doing needs to be in action. And the more energy we bring, energy is simply, that goes along with specificity. Energy is how hard we fight for whatever it is we need in that moment. So the harder we fight, the more specific we are. Then it brings this thing called energy, which is something that is felt by the audience and makes everything you're doing, the quality of your acting, go up. I know there's some other questions in the chat. I will get to them in a second. So if you have any others, you can put them in there. Once I'm done with this, I will absolutely get to all of your questions. And then finally, courage. Actors need to have courage. And we need to have courage because acting is anxious. We are putting ourselves in a very vulnerable position. We're walking into an audition, we're standing in front of others. In a film audition, we are in front of a camera. On a stage audition, we're standing on a stage in front of people with lights on us. And so it's very vulnerable to do. So we're going to have anxiety that gets in our way and tries to stop us. So the courage is working through that anxiety. Anxiety is simply the feeling of fear. So when we're anxious, we're fearful. And of course, we're fearful. It's vulnerable. We're fearful that they're not going to like us. We're fearful that we're not going to do a good job. We're fearful that, we're going to make a bad choice. I mean, we have all of these things these self-conscious things that are inside of us. The courage is your ability to move forward regardless of your fear and your anxiety. Your willingness to take risks. And every great actor feels anxiety. The best of the best, the A-list actors that you revere, still feel anxiety. So you're not alone with that. And the goal is not to remove the anxiety. The goal is to work through the anxiety. And you can learn to do that. Okay, I have one more thing, and then I will get to all of your questions. Psychology of the audition. So we need to learn where to put our focus. So the first thing is, don't put your focus on whether you get the part or not. A lot of times we walk into an audition and we're so worried about, can I get the part? What am I going to do to get the part? But that's where your focus is, over there. And instead, the audition is about this moment in this life. So put your focus on what's happening now in this life. Just really live in this moment. And then that will allows your whole performance to have a higher quality. So you put your focus outward. When you're focused on getting the part, your focus is inward. You're typically up here in your head. We're thinking about, what can I do to get the part? What does the casting director want? Am I doing this right? Am I sounding okay? All of these things, but you're in here. And when you're in here, it breaks the connection with what's happening in your present moment. And acting is all about living in the present moment. So you want to put your focus outward, around you, on what's happening now, on the life of the scene. Energy. So we want to shift our energy that we have. The energy is that life force that you feel, right? We want to shift it from one of, I take, like what's in it for me, versus rather you want to shift it to, I give. Meaning, when you walk into an audition room or you're doing a self-tape, I want you to consider, what are you giving to the production? What are you offering them? Not what can you get out of it. That's one of a taking mentality. But instead, what can you give to them? And really, what you can give to them is the fullness of yourself. You can give to them your art and your creativity. And you can offer it to them to see if it helps the production move forward. Sometimes it will and sometimes it won't, and either one is okay. But when you have the giving mentality, the energy, it feels better either way. Fear. Learning how to deal with nerves and anxiety. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but about how we can do this. But this is one of the psychological things that really hinders actors for years with auditioning. Is what happens in the beginning is actors fight against the anxiety. Meaning that we're feeling anxious and we try to push it away, or we try to fight against it so we can do the audition. And really, we need to embrace it. Let the fear in, let the anxiety in, and then we use it in the performance, because all of the characters that we will ever play are also fearful and anxious. So we can use that anxiety in the scene, and it will heighten the performance. Committing to your choices. So many times I see actors, they will make strong choices outside of the room. But when they come into the audition room, they pull back, and instead they what we call play it safe, which simply means they won't go to an extreme choice. They won't really push the boundaries. They'll pull it back to neutral, and which is boring. But the boring is also very safe. Instead, we want exciting. We want something that, and exciting, again, doesn't mean you're not making any choices on the plot, or you're not doing anything physically by knocking anything over. Please don't do that. But meaning fighting harder for your point of view, making the relationship as important as you possibly can. Those are the things that when you come in and then commit to that and really fight for your point of view, that's very exciting for us to watch. And finally, work off every moment. So what I mean by every moment is sometimes things don't go as expected in the audition room. And too many times I see actors stop themselves. So they, even as simple as they skip a word or they flub a word, they struggle saying a word when they're speaking, or maybe the reader that they have um, says the wrong word or something. But something very simple goes wrong. Actors sometimes will say, and they'll stop, and they'll ask to do it again. Strong actors that we're looking for, will not stop. No matter what happens in the scene or in the environment, they will take it in and they will work off it, meaning they'll whatever is being said to them, whatever is happening, and you'll continue moving forward. And the scene must go on, the show must go on. So that's something to learn that we have to do as actors, is always keep moving forward. Don't worry if something unexpected happens. Okay, so in acting, one of the quotes that I have that I think sums up what we're looking for in auditioning is this one right here, that says, they may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And that's an important thing. When you come into an audition room, I can tell you, as somebody that does a lot of casting, I may not remember the exact audition. I may not remember your exact monologue, but I will remember the feeling that I had when watching your monologue or when watching your audition. And that's something that stays with me. And that's something that may get you the callback. It's like, wow, I really loved the feeling that I had when you were in front of me. So that's what we really have to focus on. And it goes back from saying, don't worry about what you're getting out of this. Instead, put your focus on what can you give. Give me, the auditor, give me a good experience. Put on a performance for me. Essentially, that's what an audition is. It's a performance. So if you're doing a film audition or a television audition, show me what you're going to be, how you're going to be if we're on set. So in other words, when you walk into a TV or a film audition, pretend it's the day of shooting and show me how you behave as an actor, your process as an actor, if we were on set and actually shooting this scene. That's what I'm looking for. If you're doing a stage audition and it's a monologue, so in monologues, we have something called a downstage moment. A downstage, so downstage means closer to the audience. Upstage means further away from the audience. And so a downstage moment is when an actor walks closer to the audience and they look out over the audience and they deliver a monologue. It's something that's very common in theater and in plays. So what I'm looking for is, how will you handle a downstage monologue moment in a play? So when I have you audition for theater, I'm looking at, okay, I'm watching a play, right? I have you in here and this is an actual play that I have you in. How do you handle this moment? And is it worth the price of admission to watch this? That's what a monologue really is. It's showing me that, yes, you understand how to be on stage, how to command that moment. Okay, so I want to come back to some of the questions that we had. How long should a monologue be for a self-tape? Well, monologues really, unless they're giving you material. Now, if a production is giving you material to perform, then it's however length that is. If someone is asking you to submit a monologue, it doesn't need to be long. The shorter, the better. A minute to a minute and 15 seconds is really all you need. The truth is, if you submit something longer, we're probably not going to watch it. It's just the truth of it. Because when self-tapes come in, we have to watch all of these, and then we have to understand, we have to make a choice. As an auditor, as somebody that watches acting all the time, which many directors feel, we don't need a lot of time to watch your performance. in the first 20 seconds, we've already made up our mind. And this is for a scene or for a monologue. Now, this is professionally, I'm talking, of course. But still, we don't need a lot of time to evaluate. So because of that, shorter monologues are better. You always want to leave the audience wanting more. And so when I see like a 2-minute monologue or a 2.5-minute monologue, it doesn't necessarily, unless it's absolutely brilliant, it doesn't leave me wanting more. It's because if I'm still watching your monologue, if it's 2 minutes in and it's still going, and I'm getting I already have my information and I move forward. If I don't watch to the end of your monologue, it works against you. So the shorter, the better. Try to find pieces that are about a minute long to a minute and a half, and you can even take monologues from material and shorten them, and just take a piece out of it. Again, a monologue doesn't need to take you on a whole journey. I'm just looking for a sliver of life from this overall piece that you're performing. That's really all that is. Let's see. Is there tools to use to keep your confidence and not give away your power away during an audition? Well, the main tool is outward focus. Learning to put all of your focus on, if it's a scene, whoever you're talking to. That's the easiest. You have a reader or you have another acting partner in the scene. Put all of your focus over there. That will get you out of your head and can maintain your confidence of whatever you need and what you're fighting for. So you need to make sure you know what the relationship is, who this other person is in the scene across from you. And then you need to know what you need from them right now, which you can usually get out of the scene. Like, what do you need from them? Do you need them to admit that they're wrong? Do you need them to admit that you're right? What is it? Do you need them to be on your side? Do you need them to apologize? Like, you find something that you need from them, and then you go do it. Like, you get that. Using these words and using your life, you go and you get that from this other person. That will help maintain your confidence, being outward focused during an audition. Because it's really when we retreat up into our head, when we start thinking about what we're doing, that's when it starts deviating. That's when we lose confidence. That's when we start having what we call self-conscious thought. And we want to move beyond that. We want to get out of our head and into this living moment. And so, and again, in acting classes, like, this is one of the things we work on over and over and over again. It takes a little while to learn as an actor, but once you learn it, it's liberating for you. How do we prepare for an audition that might be for a musical? Very similar ways. Now, musicals, you will typically have time to prepare. If they they'll typically give you a short piece of music to prepare, or they'll ask you to come in with 8 bars, 16 bars of something to sing, which is just segments of music to sing. And really what you need to do to prepare is to practice that song. Now, with a musical, number one, it's going to be about voice. It's going to be about how well you can sing that song. Now, in community theater or amateur musicals, the voice is the most important thing. How well can you sing? But in professional musicals, it's also how well can you sing and perform. So what we do is we kind of combine those. You work, of course, on your voice and on your ability to sing this piece of music, but then separately, we take all of our acting things, outward focus, trying to really talk. Instead of really talking, we're really singing, but we're still trying to do something. We're still trying to get something through this piece of music. We're trying to accomplish something in this moment through this piece of music. We're allowing ourselves to feel the words of the song, make it as personal as we possibly can for ourselves. So there's emotion built into it. And we add all of that into a musical audition. And if you can make the words of a song personal to you when you're singing them, that will immediately move you to the top. Immediately. Because so many people can sing well, But if you're singing well, technically, and not feeling the words, it actually loses something. I would much rather, if I'm casting for a musical, I would much rather have a performer that felt the music and was singing from meaning, but was not necessarily pitch perfect. I would take that performer over somebody that was pitch perfect, that was technically accurate, but wasn't feeling the words. So make sure you work on that. All right, next question. What if a scene or a moment requires you to be a loser, not energetic, or lazy? Okay, so even, believe it or not, even, so energy is, we need energy all the time. There are no characters that are not energetic. But don't mistake, energy doesn't mean that we're hopping around and moving all around or moving very quickly. Energy is what we're doing with the world around us. It's what we're fighting for in that moment. It's how much we're committed to what we need in a scene. And so don't allow a characterization or a type description to throw you off. And I mean, never come in and play it lazy or play it non-energetic. That won't help you in the audition process at all. So, and I see this mistake made by so many actors where they, because of the type description, they what we call underplay it or underact. And I would much rather you come in and overdo it than underdo it. It's much more interesting to watch. If it's not, think about it this way too. As any character, as an actor in any character, your character needs to be interested in the world around them. They need to have something at stake that you're fighting for, something at stake that you want. Because if it's not interesting to you, it won't be interesting to the audience. You must be interested in the world around you. You must be trying to accomplish and get something. And so even in those moments, fight for something. It's much more interesting to see. All right, next question. What are the differences between auditioning for film and TV and theater? Well, the main difference is film and TV are going to have you do a cold read. It's a piece of a scene. That's very important in the evaluation because, once again, when we're filming you, you're going to be in scenes in the TV show or in the film. So I need to make sure that you can do that and you understand how to stand on your mark and how to stay in camera. It's really the film TV audition is about this frame right here. It's how do you look on camera. And so that's what that's about. Versus a theater audition is going to be live. It's not going to be on camera. It's going to be live on stage or maybe in a room that mimics a stage. And really it's about how do you handle this performance live, since that's what you'll be doing in theater in front of a live audience. So in those moments, me, the casting director, and my casting team are your audience. And I want to see how you handle performing in front of us. And that's the main difference between that. Film and TV are going to use cold reads, scenes, and theater typically will use monologues. Now, theater can use cold reads as well. Sometimes they will do that as well, just to see how you handle scene work on stage. So that's fine if that happens. But monologues are one of the more common things you'll find in theater. Next question. How do you suggest finding a monologue that fits somebody? And is it best to audition with that monologue frequently? So, yeah, let me address how to find monologues. First of all, there's a misconception in the industry with monologues. And that is that what I find that many actors do is so let's say I put out a casting notice and say next Saturday I'm going to be holding a theater audition and you can bring a monologue. Well, I find that many actors will use this time and say, oh, it's next Saturday, let me find a monologue now. Like I want to work on new material. So what I can tell you is that that's not the use of a monologue. A monologue is not something for you to pick up new material and try to work it quickly. That's a cold read. A monologue is prepared material, meaning a monologue needs to be the best of the material that you can do. It's the most prepared. It's assumed when you perform a monologue that this is the best acting that you can do. That's the assumption. So if you stand on stage with a monologue, it needs to be the most prepared material you have, the most fully cooked material you have. So that's the first thing is yes, you will use the same monologue over and over and over again, and there's nothing wrong with that. Especially if you have something that's very strong and very powerful that you can do. Yeah, you're going to use that over and over and over again. But as far as how to find one, what you really need to do is read plays. Read published plays. It's best to find monologues in plays and not in TV and film. And the reason for this is that TV and film is created for it's what we call the visual medium. It's what we see on the screen, right? It's different shots and different editing, and there's a score underneath it, music underneath it. So it's built for the edit. So it's very visual. It's a more full experience. Where plays are written for actors to be on stage. They're written for the performance, not for the visual. So there's a benefit by using that material. Also, you're going to be using monologues to audition for theater. So it's best to use material that was also written for theater. So that's the first thing, published plays. Now, there's thousands of published plays out there, so where do you begin? There are some monologue books from plays. They're okay. It's a collection of monologues from published plays. You can start there. You can search online for monologues from plays and see what you find there. Or you can go to the actual playhouses, meaning that the playhouses, one is called Dramatists Play Services, and you can find a bunch of plays there. You really just need to start reading them. Now, short plays are okay. They have these things called 10-minute plays, and there's collections of books that you can get. You can go to your library and find them, so you can check them out for free. But I would look for anything that is from a play, and really you just have to read. Now, as far as which one would you select, you want to select a monologue that fits you. Because when you walk into the room, you look a certain way, you're a certain age, you fit what we call a certain type. Meaning if someone's just looking at you, if they don't know you, and they're looking at you across the room, there are certain things that they can assume about you. Well, and you've probably done this with other people when you're out. You can assume things about people just by looking at them. Those are the things that we want to make sure when you're taking on a monologue that it fits your type. Because that way it's very easy for the people that are watching to go along on this journey. Because you immediately fit the character that you're playing. You immediately, the words that you're saying, it all kind of goes together. So that's where I would just find material that fits you the best. So find these monologue collections. There's monologue collections. There's so many of them out there. And I would just start reading through and see if there's one that you identify with or one that that excites you to do. I would avoid things that are either heavy in characterization, meaning in something that you really have to step out of yourself far to do. I would avoid those. Avoid anything that needs an accent. We want to typically avoid accents for plays or for monologues. And avoid anything that is way different than who your type is. For monologues, just stay very true to that. It's all about just showcasing to auditors what you can do. It's a sliver of life of what you can do as an actor. So that's the best way to find something. Next question. When the scene describes props, is it best to use them or imagine holding them? Example, a notepad, a menu, a brochure, etc. Okay, this is a great question. So typically in auditions, we avoid props or stage direction. However, there are a couple of things that are okay to have with you during an audition, especially like a film or television audition. So the first thing is a phone. We typically have our phones with us. And so you can and so if the scene calls to be on a phone call, you could use your phone for that as a prop. The next is you have a script itself. You're going to have a script that you're using. The script can become a notepad or a brochure or something that you're looking at. And what I usually do when I go into an audition, I carry some sort of folder with me too that I usually keep my headshot and resume. I keep stuff in there. And that can then also be used as a way to, you need to take notes, like you're a doctor or a lawyer or something, and you need to take notes during the scene. So these are very acceptable items to have with you. And the last is like a water bottle or a cup of water. And you can use that if you're at a restaurant or you're drinking. Basic props like that, a wallet or a purse, things that you would normally have with you, is okay to then use in the scene. You would not bring in any other type of props for an audition. It's not necessary. We don't need to bring those in. Now, how do we deal with that? For the most part, we don't do anything with it. For the most part, we don't want to mime props. We don't even like a gun. This is kind of silly and ridiculous, right? when we do that, so we don't want to mime those things. Normally, if there's heavy props in a scene for an audition, I would ask the question, how do you want me to handle these things? Typically, professionally, we take all of that out. We do the scene without the props because it's really about the life. It's really about what you're feeling and what you're trying to do. It's about the relationship in the scene. It's not about all of these other things. It's not about wardrobe. It's not about props. It's not the scene's not about that. So you could always ask the question to the auditor about that. But again, rule of thumb, whatever you would normally have with you is okay then to use in the scene if it's necessary. If it's necessary. If it's not necessary, I wouldn't use them. An audition is about you, and you want to stand out. And if you use a prop and it draws too much attention to the prop, they're not focused on you. And that's why I would only use it if it's necessary for the scene. Otherwise, just ignore it. Next question. What recommendations do you have for a self-tape setup? What gear do you like to use, specifically lighting or backdrop? Okay, so for self-tape, so you need a set of lights. Now, you can go on Amazon and they have a set of 3 lights that you can get. They're LEDs and they're typically, so you look for if you look for like a lighting kit, a photography lighting kit, a video lighting kit. Video lighting kits tend to be a little bit better, but you can look for those. Now, it will cost you a little bit of money to get the 3 lights. And the reason I say 3 lights is because if you look here at this diagram, this is what's called a basic 3-point lighting setup. This is what I'm under right now. I have 3 lights on me right now. I have lights here, 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 and then one behind me. And just like this diagram is showing. So what you want is 2 lights coming from the front of you to give you a nice even fill here. But then you want a light behind you. See this little glow I have on the back of my hairline? What it does is it makes you feel more 3-dimensional in the space that you're in. And so it's called a 3-point lighting setup. If possible, you have them on stands so they're a little higher than you, looking down at you. And again, it makes it feel better, more of a film environment. So for a self-tape, this is what I would do. And you can, on Amazon or maybe, you can find these lights in different places. But I would look around for that. However, you could also use, so where you see where these lights are in this diagram, you could go to a thrift store and you can use lamps. So you can buy for like $1. you can buy an older lamp with a shade and just put a regular light bulb in it. And try to use what's called warm light, because they have cold light, which is daylight, and warm light. You want warmer colored light. It's more of the orangey light. That's what you want. But you can just use a lamp with a shade. The shade diffuses it, meaning it takes the harsh light and it spreads it more evenly. And so you can get 3 lamps and put 3 lamps on either side of you and just have that light hit you. That's a very inexpensive way to start off and to do that. It doesn't cost a lot of money, and you can still get some nice lighting around you. You want to avoid what we call downlighting. A lot of times in homes or businesses, we have light that comes, like if ceiling lights that shine down. What that will do is it creates harsh shadows underneath you and on you and in your eyes. And really, we want to make sure that your eyes are the most important thing that we need to see in the audition. So we need to make sure that's very clear. Typically in an audition, I wouldn't wear my glasses. So I'd have that so you could see my eyes better. They light up. So that's the most important thing. So you want light that comes more from the front and then shining in the back. If you don't have a stand, you could take a lamp and put it on the ground behind you, like kind of like you're covering it. It's right behind you, but again, it will still put this glow behind you, which is really all you want, a nice soft glow right behind you. And so that's the best thing you can do for lighting for a self-tape setup. Other than that, really nowadays, phones are fine. I mean, the quality of the camera on these phones are great. So you can use this to record your audition. You don't necessarily need a costly camera to do that. If you have a better camera, by all means do that. But these phones are great. So now the thing with phones, right? So there's 2 different ways. There's vertical and there's horizontal, right? This is for social media that you would do, not for an audition, right? This is for like TikTok. This is for an audition. You always want to make sure that the camera or your phone is in this horizontal format. That's what you want to send in, because that looks the most like, just like this frame right here, it looks the most like film and television. And so really, I mean, you can use your phone. You can use very simple lighting. The mic on the phones, the newer phones are pretty good, but they do sell, Amazon has these, they do sell these things that you can plug in to your iPhone or Android, and they're these little mics. You can wear a mic, like they're called lapel mics that you like attach on to something. You can wear those and they cook into your phone. It gives you a better quality of voice. Or they have ones that are little, they're called shotgun mics, which are little microphones that you can put this on a stand, and then you can have that shotgun microphone that's just pointing at you, and those are pretty good as well. So very inexpensively, you can do that. Now, as far as a backdrop, you essentially, like, I would not use this for an audition. It's too much going on behind me. It's too busy, and I need all the focus on me. So you can use a neutral wall if you have that in your home. Or if you're getting a backdrop, try to get something that's either like a light blue, a gray, something very neutral, and you put that behind you. You don't want anything with a pattern like this curtain behind me here. Again, it's too busy. It draws focus. So you want the background to just go away, and so the focus is all right here, and they're looking at your eyes. They're looking at your performance. So that's what I would do with a backdrop. And there's so many backdrops, again, on Amazon or online that you can shop for. Okay, let's see a couple more questions. Let's see if I can get to them all. Will it benefit the actor to always use monologues that take you, out of your comfort zone? So, well, here's the thing. I believe that any monologue can take you out of your comfort zone if you make the right choices with them. Meaning, if you make the relationship strong enough, and if you make what you're fighting for strong enough, and it means enough to you, it's striking you at an emotional chord, they all can take you out of your comfort zone. Yes, I would like to see more of a deeper range from an actor in a monologue. I want to see a very truthful, raw, vulnerable moment from an actor. It doesn't have to be this huge, big, extreme thing, but I do want to see a personal, vulnerable moment. Now, this is if I'm looking at a drama or something that requires deeper acting. If you're doing something lighter or a comedy, I still want to see truth. I still need to see that you're really talking or really listening. You're really trying to fight for something in that. And in comedy is still very important and dramatic to the actor. It's just that the material, the things that you're talking about, those things they're ridiculous, right? Typically in comedy, the things that we're fighting for to the audience are like, why does this person care so much about this? That's what makes it funny. So in a comedy, it's about how hard are you fighting for whatever you need, but it's still very truthful. The truth part of it, making it authentic, will take you out of your comfort zone every single time. So yeah, I would definitely do that. How should we prepare for an audition to get into college? So the same thing, right? Into an acting conservatory, preparing an audition. They're a minute to a minute and a half. Usually colleges and conservatories will have their own requirements. So I would follow their requirements of the length of the monologue or what they're asking for. Some conservatories will ask you to choose from a collection of monologues they provide you as well. But so I would follow the rules of that school. But you prepare it the same way. You work on it. You make it as personal as you possibly can. You can't over-rehearse or overwork on a monologue. The more you put into it, the better. Make it personal, make it important, and then learn to really, really say these words. Don't perform the words, really talk these words, really speak them, and do something with those words. And that's the best thing you can do for that. Let's see, next question. Do you recommend having more than one type of monologue that you're working on for versatility? So you can have a couple different ones. Really, you're going to need a main contemporary monologue. You will need that. Now, it's also nice to have a second one, contemporary, meaning modern day, monologue, one that is a little more heavier and dramatic, and one that is lighter in their material. I don't want to say comedic. I don't like the word comedic because it assumes that when we say a comedic monologue, we get the feeling that we need to be funny in some way, and that's not what a comedic monologue needs to be. So it's really a lighter monologue with its material, something that maybe you can audition for Disney with, or Nickelodeon, or one of those things, something lighter, and then something that's maybe a little darker, more edgier, more dramatic in the sense of it's an emotional monologue. So those are the two things that I would have. You really just need two. You need more if you're going into classical work, if you're going into Shakespeare, if you're going into that realm. If you want to audition for that, then you also need a classical dramatic and a classical comedic or lighter one. And I would choose right from one of the Shakespeare plays for those. Try to choose a monologue that's not as well known. I mean, don't choose Hamlet's To Be or Not to Be. It's too overdone. But there's so many plays from Shakespeare and so many moments that you can choose from. And really, with a Shakespearean monologue, what they're looking for is your command of the text. How can you speak these words truthfully to an audience? And that's really what that's going to come down to. But that's yes. So you can have multiple ones, but that's the why of what you would do. Let's see, tips for building a resume. My best tip for building a resume, because we as actors, we start off with nothing. We like every actor starts off with nothing on their resume. The first thing is training. Study and train as often as you can. That's the most important section of your resume is your training. If you're able to get into a conservatory, if you're able to study deeper process, that's what we teach at Truthful Acting, then that's actually has more weight on your resume as well. So, but anything you can do for training, put that on there. Secondly, work in different projects. Try to work in community theater, church theater, any sort of local, like get involved in theater. Theater's the second most important thing on your resume. And I'm talking about in film, theater's the second most important thing on your resume because that's a training ground for your skills. And then you could also, wherever you're located, see if there's a school that has some sort of film program. So in where I'm at in Orlando, we have different film schools here, and those film schools have students that are making student film projects, and they're always looking for actors, and that's another great way to get involved and to work on your craft. And these are different things. Every time you work on a student project, you get a credit. If you have any credits in high school or in college, if you worked in theater or you worked on any projects there, those are still credits for your resume. So these are ways we begin building those that type of thing. Any tips for professional headshots for TV and film? My best advice, first of all, when you're starting out, don't pay a lot for headshots. You can spend up to $1,000 for headshots. Please don't do that. You don't need to. You'll spend more for headshots, meaning for a certain type of headshot photographer, once you know why you need it. Until you know why you need more expensive headshots, don't overpay for that. Now, a standard headshot session from a good photographer will still be a couple $100. It still might be $250 to $300. So do that when you can. And your job in a headshot is to offer a moment. Meaning the headshot photographer is going to take the picture. Your job is to give a moment to take. Now, very quickly, a headshot is not a posed shot. It's not like when someone takes a picture and you say cheese and you smile. A headshot is a moment. So what you need to do, think a thought in your head. The lens of the camera, when you're looking into the lens of the camera, look through the lens. And on the other side, imagine that you're looking at somebody you know, maybe somebody you want to know, and then think a thought. Just like whatever that thought is, right? It could be like, I have a secret. Whatever that is, and you just have this and the headshot photographer will guide you through that, but by really looking through the lens, not at the lens, but through the lens, to someone in your imagination that's on the other side of it, and think something that you're sending to them, that will create amazing headshots for you. That one little bit of information right there. So that's the best way to do that. But don't overpay right now. You find local photographers, somebody that can even take an initial set of headshots for you. Pay for them when you're ready for them, when you know that you need them. Because I just don't want to see you spending money that you don't need to spend. All right, one last question, and how do I get in front of the better agents? We have to work our way up in the industry. So the better agents are going to have certain criteria that they're going to want from you. They're going to want to see certain things on your resume, like a higher quality of training. They're going to want to see certain levels of credits on your resume, and they're going to want to see that you are putting in the effort to do all of these different things. The better agents are going to require higher quality headshots. So there's certain things that you need to go through. So what I would say right now, any agent is okay. Getting in front of an agent, obtaining an agent when you're first starting out, letting them send you out in the industry and working. I mean, anything that you can do at that level is great. And then you build your career. You slowly build up more and more and more, and then that will then lead you to opportunities to the bigger agencies. But the bigger agencies, even if you got in front of them without having the proper criteria, it won't do anything for you. All they'll tell you is keep working and come back in a year. So just because the pool is so large, there's so many people vying for the same spot in their agency. So they're going to take the ones that are the most prepared for what they're going to be sending you out on. Okay, all right. Wow, thank you for all your questions. I love the fact that that you had so many questions because I love answering them. Thank you for joining your time with me today. This went by so fast. I really, really enjoyed spending all this time with you. If you have any further questions, you can contact us here. Our email is info@truthfulacting.com. You can send us an email if you have any follow-up questions, or if you want to know have information about our studio or what we offer, or you can call or text us. Either way, if you email or call or text us, you'll get Samantha, who has been chatting with you here in our chat service, and so please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you again so much. We'll be back in a few weeks with another one of these, so stay tuned for that. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye now.